That was my dad's. And on the corner was the barber shop, belonged to Barber Bill. That's all I ever knew him by, Barber Bill. And those two businesses were there. And then the other businesses were across the street. And then the big store behind you here.
So the big store's gone.
Oh, yes. All where you have for a parking lot. That was all the Bazaar store. Do they still have the one in Arcata?
No.
It's gone too. Well, it was a kind of a chain.
Where the storehouses in Arcata used to be the Broussard store there.
Oh, it was a chain. They had one in Willow Creek. They had one in Hoopaw. They had one in the other little town of Woodspec and
Orleans.
Orleans.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there and here. This was the second biggest one.
I'm gonna get you a little more. I'm gonna get her a little more reach here.
But we never were, as kids, we were never hardly ever allowed to come up in here because this was for guests, you know. And there was only 16 of us kids, so.
16? Oh my gosh.
And I'm the oldest girl, so you know I've taken care of babies for all my life.
And so how many babies did you have? 5? Well, you cut way back.
Yeah, well, I married into the Melvin family, and they had never had any girls. So the first thing we did is had 4 boys right off of this. So we had one girl on the end. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't. I probably wouldn't have had that many because I was tired taking care of babies.
So we're going to do this little thing. It's kind of like, you know, in the movies when they go like that and they start a movie. So, but it's just teeny because we are low budget.
But it has all the stuff on it. So here we go.
Now, what do we do with this?
Well, I'll do that for you.
He'll do it.
I'm just going to put it. We're just going to make the sound, okay? And it's take 1.
Now, when it makes a sound, what do I do?
Take time. Anything. You don't have to worry about anything.
Actually, the one thing you should.
That's what he was just taking myself.
The actual one thing you should do is just kind of stay, like, you know, see, you feel how you're leaning back right now. Don't jump. Don't lean way forward or move over like this or that. It's better if you just stay.
Just sit like this.
Yeah, kind of just stay relaxed.
Yeah, just relax. And it's just you and me having a conversation. So we're just like in the living room having a conversation. So it's very easy and relaxed. So,
you ask me questions, I'll answer.
Questions, and I'm going to start with the very easy question.
Okay.
And that is, could you say your name and spell it for us?
What?
Say your name and spell it.
Oh, Stella.
Spell. Spell it. S-P.
Stella. Haven't you got a daughter named that or a granddaughter?
No, they want you to say your name.
Oh.
Say your name and then spell it so we make sure we get the spelling right when we put your name next to
I'm
your
hearing
face.
you all different. No, I'm in gear, but I don't know if it's any good. My name is Francis. You want the middle name?
Only if you want to see it on the big screen. If you want to see it in the movie.
Victoria. My maiden name was Gibbons. And my married name is Melvin.
Okay. And how do you spell your last name?
Melvin, just like the first name.
Oh, I had it totally misspelled. I had it with an E instead of E. I had Melvin. Great. That was very easy. Get my questions up here. And where were you living during the 1964 flood?
Right where we are now.
Okay.
Right by Linda.
Where's that at?
Don't you know where Linda lives? You know where Mill Road is after you go up through Klamath and turn and go up Mill Road and there's a gate? Do you know where that is?
No.
You don't know nothing, do you?
I know nothing.
She don't know Klamath. She doesn't know nothing.
So you lived in Klamath?
Yes.
Okay.
It'll still be Klamath. It's Klamath.
Okay. And what I'm going to have you do too is say complete sentences so that, because we're going to take me out of the interview, and it'll just be you talking. So say, I lived in Klamath during the 1964 flood.
Yes.
Okay.
To that gentleman?
No,
Am I talking?
Everything is to me.
Talk to her.
Well, I'm still talking to you, but you're not saying anything. Okay. Well, let's see. I'll have to kind of think about that. I lived in the same place that I do now, and we had a very little water in the house because it's a little higher than Klamath. But my husband and I, if you know where the road is, there's a high bank. We went out there and sat on that high bank, and we watched everything come down the river. Christmas trees, houses, cattle, anything you wanted. And we had a big Chamber of Commerce building in Klamath. And it put me in the mind of the Great Lakes. If you've been to the Great Lakes, they have those big ferries. That's just what it looked like. It looked like one of them big ferries going down the river. And lots of cattle, but there was no people. But my second son was out in that flood with he had a boat, a good-sized boat, like a fishing boat, you know, picking up people. He was only 18 years old, but he picked up 65 people on all around the banks and during the night, and brought them up to the house. I had 22 people living in my house.
Wow, that's amazing. So he went around and during the night, were you afraid that he was out there doing that during the night?
Yes, because a lot of people began to climb up on top of the roofs, you know. And there was we had a theater that was quite high, and that had a lot of people on top of that. So he was taking his boat, and he was bringing. There was no place to take people. All was there was a veneer mill where they did, and veneer mill has heat because it dries the veneer, you know. So they put them all up in there where they at least have heat and shelter. Or then they started taking them out the back way to Crescent City, because they have quite a lot of roads there now, but they wasn't at that time. There wasn't a lot of roads, but they was bringing things in from Crescent City and picking up the people. Eventually, I guess that's where they all went. But I know I had a house full.
And you could get from Klamath to Crescent City. I know the bridge going the other direction was out, right? The big.
It was, yeah. You couldn't go across the river, you know, because the bridge was out. Yeah, it was. You had to go that way, so it was safe enough, you know, because I mean the hill is there, and you could go all the back roads to Crescent City. You didn't have to use the highway or anything.
And Klamath Glen got washed out.
Yes, I don't. Not the high part. Do they have a store there now? Where Ethel used to, Ethel?
But this close.
Well, that was okay. That was high enough, you know. It was out, especially on the other side of the dike. But on this side too, just as you come over the dike, my second son had a two-story house right there, and it just picked it up off of whoever built it. They didn't attach it to the foundation. It just picked it up and went out the. And you know, I had some Indian baskets, and I had 2 baby baskets, and they were in my son's house. And that house washed down to Turwell Creek, where the little bridge goes across, and it went down in the creek and lodged. And after the flood, it was still there, and the baskets were still there. We still have them, although they're in Tennessee now, but we still have them.
You know, I think about that, all those, you know, artifacts that probably were lost during the flood. People who had the Indian baskets and the Indian regalia who might have lost things during the flood. A lot of people probably lost things.
Yeah, it's a good thing that the house lodged in Turwell Creek. If it had went out the mouth of the river, it'd all been gone, you know. We did find some stuff on the beaches, especially out at Hidden Beach, you know, where Hidden Beach is out here. We found quite a few things there after the flood.
What sorts of things did you find on the beach after the flood? What did you find? You said you found.
We found some mostly. What did he have? He had some kind of a collection. He had some skis. They were there. That's why I wish Robbie was here, because he remembered what they found, because I didn't go out there, the boys did. But they found a lot of things. Everything that would float was there. What else was there? Oh, I know what the thing, the most of the things that was there. There was a big Chamber of Commerce building. And I told you, when it went out, it looked like a big ferry going down. And it had some old theater seats. This is what we had on the sides of the building inside for people to sit on, you know. And they were all out there on that hidden beach. I don't know what they done with them, but they rescued them anyway. And they were theater, and they were attached together, you know, like theater seats are.
It must have looked like people were sitting out there, you know, just looking at the ocean or looking at, you know, what happened after the flood, like it was like a theater out on the beach. It must have looked like.
Yeah, dude.
So how did you take care of all those people that stayed in your home? How did you feed them all? And
yes, but most of them, when they left their house, if they could get in their house to take their stuff, they emptied their freezers. So we had, and I have a big fireplace in the front house. You know how it looks. It's big. Well, it's not quite as big as that opening.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a big rock fireplace. And my oldest son, he was only about 8 years old, or 18 years old, but he went up to the mill and he made a grate to go on the fireplace, so it would fit in there. And then everybody brought their roasts and their steaks and everything, and afraid he was cooking, because there was no electricity. That was all out. So if you had anything in your freezer, but of course those people were eating a lot too. But that grill was covered there with meat all the time, oh, big steaks like that. Everybody was eating royally, I tell you. So that we made out all right.
did everybody kind of help so that you didn't have to do the work yourself? Did everybody help you who was staying with you?
Yes, most of them bought him like food. They'd take it out of the refrigerator, and everybody that had meat, like I say, I bet you one time they made me 4 or 5 roasts on that fireplace, cooking at one time, and steaks. One guy said, I had never have had a big steak like this for 10 years. I think he ate about 3. Yeah, but everybody was eating a lot of steak. But that's all. I cook stuff on too. If they put a pot on the stove, our fireplace is pretty good size. And I had a couple of pots sitting on there, boiling stuff. We got along real fine. But like I said, I had 22 people in the house, and that's only got 3 bedrooms. But we have quite a big attic, and we could have put them up there, but we didn't. They just put them on the floor.
Lots of children, or mostly adults?
Hmm?
Some children too?
Oh yeah, everybody brought their families. Wesley Rook and his wife Carol, I think her name was. My sister Ruby had one about 4 and a baby. There was several, maybe 5 or 6 little fellers too, but most of them was the adults. I guess when people knew the river was coming up, and sometimes when we have these floods, it'll be very slow. You know, you can't hardly see it rising. But that time you could just stand right there and just watch it coming like that. So people didn't have time to get anything out of the town of Klamath. It just most everything went down the river because they didn't have time. And it was a good thing that there was a trailer park there, and I would see the trailers, people pulling their trailers up. Because have you been up on Mill Road there?
No, but
no,
I
what?
heard a story about that. The story about the bull that went out to sea.
Yes.
I heard that story, and they were talking about getting the trailers up on the sides of the hill.
Yeah, the
get 'em
higher
up
where the
hills.
mill was. Well, they didn't unhook the electric wires or the pipes or anything. They just hooked onto them and up the road they'd come. And here's all the water pipes and the electric lines all just dragging up there. Because after you go by our place, Linda's in there where we live, you go across the little creek and has a bridge. And then it gets higher. So that's where they were all headed. And there was the lumber mill up there and also a veneer mill, which they were drying their veneer, you know. So it had heat in it. So people was really lucky because they had all the heat they could have, and they could get a lot of people in the mill. So that just filled up, and then there is back roads to Crescent City, so I guess they opened some of the others so people begin to go to Crescent City on the end. But I had about 22 people in the house there for, you know, off and on. I know some of them even from the Glen. I don't know where the people went up at the Glen. You'd have to talk to them. But there was one couple. The boy was a friend of one of my boys. He and his wife moved in with us. Wesley Rook. Anybody know the Rooks? You know. And so his wife, Carol, he's married twice. What's his wife's name? Ann? There's Ann and
I'm not sure.
yeah, I think the first wife was Carol. Ann. So it was Carol and Wesley that stayed with us. So anything you want to know, just ask.
I don't think we're gonna let these guys. Is that coming through at all?
A
little bit. I think we're gonna let these guys check in, so they don't have to. You guys don't have to whisper anymore. We're just gonna take a little break and let you get checked in. Thank you. Thanks for being so quiet. I'm checking out. That's okay. That's okay.
Did you have fun?
Yeah, it was great. We don't really want to leave.
I know, it's nice.
It's a beautiful spot.
That's pretty minimal though.
Is it pretty cool?
Well, if we're going to use this for backup, I can hear them too. So it picks up a little more.
Yeah.
It's okay.
We'll let them get all checked out, and then we'll pick up where we left off. So I want to ask you too. Did you can a lot of canned goods during that time? Did you have that sort of thing to eat?
No.
Well, you've been canning for years.
Yeah. Oh, what I did can, yes. But at that time, that was kind of late, a little bit later after I got older and the kids left home, you know, there was no use can.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear that from a lot of people. They used to can, and then once the kids go, it's like how many jars of jam or, you know.
Oh, yeah.
What sorts of things did you can? What sorts of things did you can? Did you can salmon?
Oh, applesauce. If you
Applesauce.
can peel the apples, you know, well, everything is, all the fruits, and I did vegetables too. But you got to be real particular about vegetables, and you got to give them be sure that they're scalding for so many minutes, you know. You just can't boil them and let them take them out. You can any vegetables?
No, you're gonna have to teach me.
Well, I did even string beans, and that's one thing you had to be sure of. But I had 5 kids, you know, and I had to feed them.
Yeah.
And we have plenty of room there where we live for a garden, and we had a pretty good sized garden. And then we have 600 acres up out of Oric in the Ball Hills. And it's an old homestead. And years ago, 1860 something, they came from England and homesteaded that. So they planted a big orchard. And we have our own orchard. We have our own cemetery. It's quite a little village. You haven't been up there?
Just to the old house, the little house, the shack that you and Harold lived in.
Oh, you didn't go down to the big house?
No, just Brian took us down there, up there to the river.
It's only about from here to the river.
We were almost.
Well, anyway, that's where the folks came from in the first place.
That
to the
was
ball.
that Harold's mom, Harold's grandmother?
No, that's the grandparents.
His grandparents.
Yeah,
And they
grandparents.
were
Hand corn.
And Cornish.
English.
So, English. Now, was one of them Yurok?
No, well, that he married a Yurok. No, she wasn't a Yurok. I don't think she lived in Hoopaw at the time, but I don't think she was a. Yes, she was a Yurok, I guess, but she was living in Hoopaw for some reason, other grandparents or something. That's right. Yeah, yeah. Harold's grandfather married a half. She was half Yurok and half white. And then Harold's mother is Harold's mother is a fourth.
Okay, I think we're ready to go ahead to continue. They've been able to check out, and I think they're doing okay. Yeah.
Jen, I'm getting a weird.
That's okay. No problem.
Jan?
Yeah.
The fireplace was making a fan or something.
It's fine. Does it do that when it's trying to shut off?
Is it trying to be colder, warmer?
I think maybe that's it.
It's affecting the mic too. It's
Yeah.
going in the mic because of the electronics.
Wonder if-
I don't know, got some fire.
Are you picking up the fan sound at all?
No, it's just when it
was doing it,
cycles back and on,
yeah.
it's affecting electricity as well.
Oh, that's why, because it's
Yeah.
going through that direction. Alrighty.
Jen, I just lost this mic.
Yeah, I'm getting that noise now.
Did you say testing? Please say testing.
Could you say testing?
Say what?
That was good. Did that come?
that would do.
It's back on.
Okay. Yeah. All right. We're sound good. We're ready to go.
Okay.
Now we've heard stories about a bull that got washed out to
Let's
sea.
hold on here. Jen.
Yes,
Wait a second.
Captain Courageous. We have his plaque. We have his plaque up there.
Okay, all right.
Uh,
Go ahead.
if you go through Klamath and anyway, that bull up there was.
Pause her, Jen?
Yeah, we're going to have you stop for a second. We'll get all settled down. And hi.
Hello.
Hi.
kind of
You're going to be here to do an interview too?
Yes, this
I'm
is
Jennifer.
Nadine.
Nice to meet you.
My aunt.
Your aunt.
Yes.
Great.
Now, is this an older person from Recwa?
Yes, sort of.
I was conceived in Recwa even.
Oh.
I was born in Arcata. Yeah, we lived right up. Do you remember where Kathy Jinsaw lived? Right up below Joy now? Well, that was our house. And my dad had this butcher shop here.
Ah.
It's what is apartment now, I guess.
You know, Grandma. Yeah, but not, because Grandma would have been 110 this year. Oh. Grandma Geneva Brooks, Matt's, would have been 110.
Oh, my. You knew Geneva Brooks, right?
Yeah, what was the first name?
Geneva Brooks?
I can't remember the first name for sure, but I knew the Brookses.
Okay,
You know,
that's
you were
their
Brooks.
family.
Which you were Brooks. You lived right up here in that big tall house that hangs over the river.
Yep.
Yeah. But you're so much younger than me, see? I'm almost 100 years old.
Oh, I know.
And, but I remember, but you know, us kids here right in town, we never were allowed to go down to the cannery very much, down that road, or go down the other road. I guess they was afraid that we'd fall in the river or the ocean or something, I guess. And we always had to stay here. And this was always our playground, right out here, and the steps. Now, when the school got
They've got cables going every which direction. I think this is okay.
the grammar school gave the program, and the little grammar school hung out. Do you know where that was?
No, I know.
It was right out the road here, and it hung on the hill out there. So when they'd have their program, we'd all come down here, and we'd use the steps. That was our stage.
Oh, nice. You had a stage
I sit out there and sang a lot of times.
Okay, I think we're ready ready to go ahead and go, we're gonna continue on with the story. I want you to tell the story about Bahamas the bull. Or no, it's Captain Courageous the bull.
Captain Courageous. Well, Captain Courageous was being raised at the Glen by Audrey and what was his name? Not Larry, but one of the Bushes. Larry and her husband, anyway. They were going to raise him for meat. That was going to be their winter supply of meat. But he got washed out and all the way to Crescent City. He went out the mouth of the river and all the way. He got in the drift. There was a lot of drift going down the river. Well, he got in that. That was really what held him up. He didn't swim all that way. And so there was some fishermen there mending their nets in the harbor, and he said, there's a seal out there. It's making the funniest noise. He said, listen. And it was this old bull, a bellern, and all they could see was the head. And they thought it was black, and he thought it was a seal. Well, they listened for a long time, they said, and pretty soon they got so curious they had to go out and see, and it wasn't a seal at all. It was this poor old bull. So that was why he got... and he belonged to Audrey and Brownlee Bush, that's their name. And so they raised him, and they said, well, we're not going to eat him now because he went through that awful time. And so his plaque is still there. I walk putting it to the post office every morning. I go right by it and give him a pat.
That's great. That's a great story.
Can you remind the island?
Oh yeah, I'll just remind you that to watch me when you're talking, to watch me, because it's so tempting to want to talk to these guys too. But
Yeah.
Just talk to me.
Oh yeah, I was spreading my conversation.
I know, it's a big room.
Yeah,
You want to talk
that's
to
gonna
everybody.
be-
because it's the way
Yep.
you
Oh, you-
No, you're fine. It's just.
Well, you're best to ask me just questions that you want to know.
Yeah. So, did you have any friends of your family or any other people that told you stories about what happened to them during the flood? People maybe who lost their homes or lost things.
It's a sad thing. I'm almost the oldest person in Delaware County. I don't have a friend or nothing. All us kids that were raised here, every one of them are gone. Even my family. I lost my last brother, man, just a couple of weeks ago.
Sorry to hear that.
No, a couple of months ago, I guess it is. The time's going. Yeah, and then all the people that lived in here, the Bosches lived right up there. He had the ferry. They had 7 children, and they were all my age, some of them, 2 or 3 of them putting exactly my age, but they're all gone. They're every one of them gone. There was 7 in that family. Have you lived here a long time?
Well, my mother lived here.
And what's the last name? Brooks?
Brooks.
I didn't know any Brooks. I didn't know any. Only person I knew down there where you live is Alice Spot, because she was about my age, and she went to school with us, So Alice was our friend.
So
I did.
You knew somebody who ran the ferry. Now, was that the ferry that ran when the bridge was out?
Yeah, that belonged to the Bosches, and they lived right where General Saws Road goes up. In fact, we lived there first. There was a house right in that, and then Kathy Jinsall lived in it last. That's where they lived, and they had the ferry.
And how were they? Because there was a bridge before. Why did
There was a bridge after.
there was a bridge?
The ferry came first.
The ferry was.
Oh
there
yes, we
first.
had the ferry for Will. We didn't have any bridge. There wasn't a bridge on the Klamath River for. This was about the first one that was built, I guess, up that way. 1927.
And then in '64, it got washed away.
Yes,
right?
yeah, that's 64 it got hit.
And then there was a ferry for a brief period.
Right here, right down here, it belonged to this Bosch family that lived right up there by Jinsaw's Road.
And was that after 1964 when the bridge got washed out?
Oh,
so
that
the
was-
ferrying- I've
Yeah,
heard that
no, it was It was before. That was our ferry and that was our transportation before. After the bridge got washed out, they put in a temporary one up there. I think it was down around Paul's Cannery or someplace. They had for a very short time for the transportation, you know, kept the highway open. That didn't last very long.
They got the new bridge built.
Yeah, they started in on the bridge. And of course that took quite a long time. I say not very long, but probably maybe 2 or 3 years. It didn't seem like very long to me.
Sounds like people in the community pulled together to help each other after the
Oh yeah, they're all like a big old family. like I say, that's why every time there's a disaster downtown, that's why my house fills up. You will now, if they have a washout, you'll have all your houses plumb full. Relieve me a little bit of them. Yeah, it was like 22 living in one house there, and that was better than 2 weeks. And I thought, oh boy, the sewer's going to have trouble with the septic tanks, I bet you, but we didn't, which was a good thing. But they got out of there. People, as soon as they got someplace to go, you know, a few people had relatives or good friends in Crescent City, so they could go up there because they could go the back logging roads if they want to. They didn't have to use this road.
Did they come back after they kind of recovered? Did they?
Oh yeah, I suppose most of them did. I know the Rooks from Klamath Glen, because Klamath Glen was really dangerous, you know. So they got out of there, and they stayed out for a long time, but they did come back. The whole Rook family, they had, right at the end of the ramp up there, they had that big campground, and they come back and started to run it again. And Wesley and his wife, I think they came back too, but they didn't stay. They didn't stay very long, but they did come back. But yeah, it built right up again, and people have got no sense. They just come back and get right in the flood again. Just like Crescent City, it's going to get hit someday. Look at them, they're right down there on the ocean. It's going that's going to be bad. That's worse than the Klamath River.
So you lived here all your life?
Yep, I was conceived here.
And how old are you?
98.
That's amazing. You're amazing.
Well, I should say 99. May. I'll be 99.
Oh my gosh, that's great. And so you have family here then?
I have only.
During 1964, you had family.
Oh
other
yeah,
family.
yeah. The kids were all home then.
Yeah. But how about parents and aunts and uncles?
No. No, let's see. My mother lasted, of course, a long time. They were the only ones here. They came here from Kansas and Wisconsin and Oklahoma. Back in that countries where they lived. And my dad came out to Portland. He wanted to see them redwood trees. He wanted to see them big trees. There are trees back there like this. And of course, there wasn't any up at Portland. They come out on the train, which was the best transportation then. Here, I guess, I don't know whether they had. I can't remember. When I could remember is the Pickwick stages, but I don't remember back to the horse. So that's why they came out on the train to Portland. Then they came on the ship out of the Columbia River and down to Eureka. And they lived in Eureka for quite some time, but Dad wanted to get in this big tree country. So he did that, and that's what he did. He logged up and down this river, all that. He had this butcher shop here, though, but he logged. He was a logger too.
Well, let me ask these guys if they have any other questions. If there's anything you guys think of too, you know, we don't mind at all hearing, you know, if there's aspects of the flood story that you think would be good.
I just wanted to clarify for you, the ferry she was talking about was the one that's before the bridge.
Right.
fell.
Yeah.
It was the National Guard that came and ran the ferry when the bridge was.
Oh,
out.
okay.
So it wasn't
Okay. It wasn't a
established ferry.
family, it was the National Guard. Okay.
I don't have
And-
any questions.
Ted, any questions?
Maybe if there's any other family members that had some stories that were related to
Yeah.
anything she did. But other
Okay.
than that,
Okay, well, any other family members, any other stories about the flood that you want to share with us?
No, I don't think there was. Everybody was alert, you know, and my sister lived downtown at the time, and we live up the road a little bit, so we were quite a while before the water got up even to the porch there. So I know she was coming up there, and I felt a baby being stuck in the bed with me. So she brought her baby up and stuck it in bed with me. That's all I remember. I never did get up.
So your sister did her home get wiped out? When
She lived in a rented one right in town. Yes, they did. The ones that didn't get wiped out, they were ruined, you know. The water set in them. In fact, we had a little trouble about that too. We had to take the tiles off of the kitchen and everything. There was mud underneath. That silt worked in there some way, but not bad. And the carpets in the living room just ripped them up, and we lived in the front house. I guess, let's see. No, Mama lived in this house that I live in now. But so we just ripped the carpets up and zoomed in, but we had to take the tiles off too, and that silt was underneath the tiles. How it's crowded underneath there, I don't know, but it did. Good thing you live upstairs, but you'll have a mess downstairs. You do anyway, every time the water comes up, don't you?
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, the creek overflows right by the little bridge there. It goes right down past my front yard, right into our garage.
Right through underneath my house.
Yeah, right. I think I steer it that way.
I was going to say somebody needs to redirect that.
Well, I'm curious,
Yes.
and one thing I haven't heard is how high did the water get, how close did it get to the Requa Inn? Do you know? Do you know how close the water came to the Requa Inn?
Oh, no, the Requa Inn has never been bothered. That, I don't think, I know I never seen it while I was even in that road down there, only way down. No, this is always high and dry. Might get a lot of rain on top, but it don't get any on the bottom.
You know where Levine's house is, of course. Did the water get up to her house?
I don't know.
No, that bank is pretty high.
Okay. Well, I think that's great. Thank you so much for coming and doing this. And thank you for arranging it and
Sure.
making it happen.
Thanks for calling.